So we have all been summoned here today, but first we would like to give a warm welcome to the newest member of the Catherine de' Medici Time Travel Society, merch below, Mina Lee. Welcome, Mina.
Hi.
Sorry, I didn't have a chance to send a mug to you.
Soon.
Are you actually selling these as merch? Please do.
Oh yeah, no, these are merch. Yes. There's a lot of members of the Catherine de' Medici Time Travel Society floating around the world right now.
Oh my god, I had no idea.
Yes, no, people are down for some Catherine. She just likes to show up every now and then. Vogue has released a video yesterday, like literally I think this time yesterday. It showed up on my homepage, but apparently I'm the only one who was blessed with this content.
It knows.
I think the algorithm knows now not to show me what I don't want to see.
Everything you need to know about the corset, and it's like under 6 minutes. It's about 5-minute long video. So that's what we got today.
Can you imagine spending years of your life studying a thing when the alternative is you can watch a 5-minute video and just learn everything there is to know about the thing?
That plus like a racked article and you practically have a PhD.
Oh my god, I've wasted so much of my life.
Wow. That was vicious. Sorry, I've been myth busting a bunch of stuff lately and I've got like fifis about some of these things.
Ooh, that was, wow. Okay, do we want to turn this into a drinking game?
Shots of tea are valid.
Shots of tea count, okay.
Does anyone want to set a rule for me? Because I'll do it. Carolina?
Whenever they show a fashion plate from another era that is discussed.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Wait. Take a drink every time they say patriarchal or patriarchy.
Oh God, okay.
Really drunk for one small section, probably.
All right, let's see how much damage we can do in 5 minutes. Here we go. Before we torture ourselves further, I just want to take a quick moment to thank the sponsor of this week's video, HelloFresh. My family and I have been using HelloFresh for about a year now, and I love how easy and delicious the meals are to cook, and that there are so many options for so many dietary needs, including vegetarian, calorie smart, and pescatarian. It's such a huge weight off of my shoulders to know that at least half of my grocery shopping and meal planning has been taken care of. Seriously, when I'm wrapped up in sewing, research, filming, or editing, the last thing I want to do is put on real pants and go to the grocery store and think about what I have to cook for dinner. I really appreciate that HelloFresh is dedicated to sustainability and reducing their carbon footprint. Not only is there little to no food waste by using a meal kit, but HelloFresh also uses recyclable packaging, which is better for the environment. Plus, it's a much easier way to clean up. If you would like to give HelloFresh a try, including their latest seasonal dishes like chicken ramen or peppercorn crusted beef, go to HelloFresh.com and use my code ABBY14 to get 14 free meals and 3 free gifts. Again, just use my code ABBY14 at HelloFresh.com to get 14 free meals and 3 free gifts. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this week's video. Now, back to torture. Okay.
Considering the comments under this video, I do not have good faith.
Legend has it that the introduction, or rather mandate, of corset wearing came from Catherine de' Medici, who allegedly brought metal corsets from Italy to France in the 16th century.
We started with the worst thing, which is the killed myth. Like, come on, guys. Come on.
I mean, he didn't like specifically say they're uncomfortable. He's
right,
like,
but he started with the Catherine de' Medici brought in metal corsets.
Mandate.
Mandated.
That was my favorite word, was the
Mandated.
mandated.
yeah, that must have been like a law, right?
Yeah.
Like if you didn't wear a corset, you were just banished.
Wait. So where did this myth that Catherine de' Medici started corsetry, like where did this come from? Because this is complete news to me.
I will put the link to the book in the description below because it's on archive.org. It has been found. I think it's called like Corsets and Crinolines, ironically. So
Oh yeah, I know that book.
yeah. But yeah, it's like mid-Victorian, you know, where they're just like, we're just gonna make shit up and call it history, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, how do you guys feel about these videos where they use the term corset for like literally everything before they were called corsets? If that makes sense? Do you get what
I mean,
I'm
at
saying?
this point, you just have to kind of like sigh and like, what can you do? Because this has been said and like this knowledge is so readily available out there. You kind of have to wonder where these people are getting this information about Catherine de' Medici starting corsetry from a book from the 1840s, but they're not seeing like the readily available scholarship where it's like, this is a corset, this is a pair of stays, from like actual modern books that are prevalent,
in their
prevalently
defense,
accessible.
in their defense, we all know that corset is an excellent like SEO term for YouTube, so I can't knock
For
it too
YouTube,
hard.
yes, for tagging and titling, but this is a video.
True.
Though costume historians believe that corsets were initially used to support the spine,
Not a costume historian, but a dress historian who does not, in fact, believe that the corset was intended to support the spine.
I appreciate that they tried to put in the script, like, for practical purposes.
the 17th century found women, and some men, of a certain class and distinction wearing them for, well, fashion.
Yeah, the way that he made it sound was that what we think is that they started off that way and then they changed into fashionable things at some point.
Oh, by the way, do we know any extant 17th century men's stays? Because like that's something I would associate more with 19th century as a fashion item, especially.
Not a deliberate corset, but the doublets, especially in the late 16th century, were really structured and really tight. Like,
Oh, also, where they talk about fashion, but then they literally show prints of working women in stays. Literally, the Merry Milkmaid.
I mean, isn't carrying pottery on your head like high fashion, 17th century fashion?
We need to bring it back.
It is the same print. They couldn't even do two prints. It's the same print
Oh my
side
god,
by side.
I didn't notice.
Should this count Carolina as a shot?
Well, it's the right era though. Like
Okay,
they said
yeah, but there was
17th
just two
century
rules.
and they're showing 17th century.
Like,
If you
from
want
the
an
get-go,
excuse to
I
drink Abby, just take the shot.
Yeah, just take the damn shot.
These ladies were in search of an 18-inch waist. With the help of whalebone stays, tight lacing and padding, it was a one-size-fits-all solution to creating the perfect figure.
One size fits all concerns me as a concept.
Yeah.
Because like that's the last thing you want for corsets ever.
I took my 18th century tight lacing fashion before E's talking about 19th century shot, so we covered that one.
Which we thoroughly debunked when we tried to lace you into a corset and realized that ain't working. Like tight lace you.
Oh yeah, no,
We tried that.
that didn't work.
That did not go well. Where do you put your foot? Because that's always the trope that they put your foot up against. Where do you put your foot when you're tight lacing someone like that? You can't put it on their butt, otherwise it goes forward. You can't get it all the way up to their shoulders, because also they're already hanging on to the bedpost, so what's the point of that? And like you can't put it on their waist because you're lacing from their waist, and you can't put it on the center of their body because that's where the laces are. So there's nowhere to put your foot. This
I
isn't
never
even a
thought about
flexibility
that.
issue. There's nowhere to put your foot that you can push against the person that won't either twist them or push them in a weird way that allows you to actually still pull the laces tight.
Let's roll that footage.
We can't even do the joke right. Because if I put it on your butt, it's not going to actually, if I put it all the way up here, that's going to be like, what is that? If I put it over here, I'm pushing you to the side. And like, the best I got is right there. And that's just not.
And you're on the laces, and that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And also, that's gonna. This is a terrible one. This whole joke is stupid. This whole trope is stupid.
As to women's health, some doctors blame the
Okay.
corset's tightness
We
for
see,
causing
I took my
damage to
shot.
internal organs.
It looks like poo.
Okay, my issue with like that whole spiel about how he's like, oh, some doctors believe this, but then goes on to like validate those doctors. You know, it's like clearly pushing like an opinion.
some doctors believe, but we're going to completely ignore the opinions of the hundreds of thousands of women who actually wore them with no problem.
Well, and the doctor's graphics, that's always my favorite thing too.
It's not a photo. It's always a horrendous drawing. Like, it's never.
And it's just made up. No one would let a 19th century surgeon touch them with a 10-foot pole nowadays. If a doctor came to me and was like, I need to perform surgery on you, I'd be like, no, 19th century surgeon, I'll just die. Thank you very much.
I feel like the funny thing is though, like in our mainstream culture, like people understand that back then, like the Victorians were doing God knows what when it came to medical stuff, like feeding their kids heroin or whatever. Like what was that, like Dr. Winslow's syrup? But then when it comes to like corsets, they're like, oh, but they were totally right on this category.
Absolutely.
Just the one.
Yeah.
Everything else was like hoopla, but like the corsets, yeah, they were on something.
Just women's
something good.
hysterics.
Yeah, it's kind of sad though, because like they thought riding bikes is dangerous. And like we're laughing at that, but when it comes to women's history, we're like, men said this about women, and that's what we should believe. And it's kind of sad. Practically, those guys' fault, like back then, but like, why do we keep believing this? It's been like hundreds of years in some cases.
It's almost like we are trying to prove our own anti-patriarchy by imposing a patriarchal lens on the past, when in reality, I mean, we don't know the reality, but we have no evidence that corsets were this like patriarchal, overbearing symbol of oppression.
Literally, the people who are aggressively speaking out about corsetry and making fun of stays in the 18th century, it's men. Like, the titles are always doctors, they're always men. And when you read like women authors writing about corsetry in women's magazines, Vogue, like, or like Cosmo, or like Ladies' Home Journal, especially at the end of the 19th century, they're so pragmatic about it. They're like, yeah, you know what? If you wear it wrong, if you wear it too tight, if it doesn't fit you, it's not gonna feel good. It's gonna be damaging. It's not gonna be comfortable. You're not gonna like it. But if you wear it correctly, you're fine.
But that's not fun.
But that's not nearly as interesting as men being like, why are women so stupid?
Also, why are women so stupid? Clearly, we need to be in there to help them.
Yeah.
Like that.
So our brains are small
They need to help.
and our curves are
Do we
kicking.
not have any men's drawings of like Victorian women's brains?
I'm sure I can
Fun
find
to
one.
see.
It's
Like a pea-sized thing.
this big. If only we had a man here right now to tell us what we were doing wrong.
Well, we have Hange.
I'm sure one will come up with something. Yeah, that's
So to be honest though, like I think he's a sweetheart, and I feel like someone did him dirty, like his assistant or
Yeah, I was gonna say,
whoever
like,
was
I don't
responsible
believe for a
this.
second that the editor of Vogue doesn't know this basic fundamental fashion history. Like, I don't.
Well, there's no way that they don't see the videos that we post online either. So that's like why I'm even more confused.
Championed the S-curve or health corset, which was lightly boned, unboned, or stiffened with cord.
First off, I have to say, it's not an S-bend. I'm saying this for Kenna. It's a straight front corset. We all need to work on our terminology.
As the allure of the classic hourglass silhouette became irresistible for designers in the pre- and post-World War II era.
I will give it to them that at least so far they have stated corsets that continue, like that they continued through the teens and into the 20s.
Yeah,
I will
yeah.
give them the fact that they at least have that and that they moved into elasticated things. And so I was like, all right, okay, yes.
They didn't say that people during the First World War just like dropped the corsets because they needed the metal for army or
They
whatever.
moved to elastic because they needed all of the parts, yeah.
But elasticated corsets, there were elasticated panels in corsetry, well, earlier in the 19th century too. So
Yeah, it's
that's
not a
some
new thing.
misinformation.
Yeah, it's just like that was kind of how it moved forward. So
Yeah.
like transitionally, fine, in a simplified manner, sure.
I mean, it's a 5-minute video, so.
But this is everything you need to know about corsetry.
This was a clear departure and defiance from the patriarchal demands of its forebears.
Okay, hold on. I gotta take one more drink because he's a patient.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
There's so much that
That's 4, I think, so far.
To modern waist-shifting practices like diet, exercise, and surgery in the 60s and 70s.
I love how the whole beginning of this video is just implying that corsets are evil and corsets are painful and uncomfortable and patriarchy, and then he like briefly mentions, oh yeah, and then by the way, the corset fell out of fashion in favor of ridiculous diets and surgery. As if that's better. Like, we've improved.
We moved on!
Now you don't get to fake your silhouette, but you actually have to have it IRL, and you have to mutilate your body to do it.
They really simplified everything, and that's something I really don't like because I feel the material of the corset is like such an important part of how it's transformed. Like they just like did that little bit about the elasticity, but it's a totally different shape in the 40s. Like, it's not going back to whatever it was beforehand, like he's implying. Also very strange that they were like, I don't know how old Hamish is, but I feel like him saying, oh, they, you know, these like 40s corsets like led women to become like misshapen again. I'm like, was his grandma misshapen? I don't know.
Yeah.
Designed for Madonna's Blonde Ambition tour. The piece ignored soft womanly curves and instead opted for jagged, spiky lines.
Okay, the other thing relative to the 1940s, 50s that caught me is that when they brought back up the Madonna thing at the very end before we stopped it, and they're like, it's super angular and aggressive and like BDSM, and I'm like, you were just talking about the 50s. Can we talk about bullet bras for a minute? Because that's what she was wearing.
Yeah.
It's not a new design. It's not like we never had points before the 1980s. Like,
Nipples were never pointy before 1980.
I feel like another problem I have with this video is that they seem to imply that the corset had the same meaning and symbolism across like every single decade, when that's not true. Like, I would say like around the Vivienne Westwood time, that's when it started taking on this like anti-patriarchy meaning, but it didn't symbolize like the patriarchy the entire time, you know?
Oh my god, is this where the myth comes from?
I feel like it's like a lot of small things that kind of just get lost in translation through, you know, as like decades go past or whatever. The punks who wore them in like the 70s did not wear corsets like in the Edwardian period. You know, like they don't have that relationship to the corset. And also a lot of with the punks was just the idea of wearing underwear as outerwear, which they didn't really talk about so far, at least.
It's almost like they're trying to imply this argument of, and then in the later 20th century, corsets became a symbol, like we've reclaimed the symbolism of corsetry, and it's now no longer about patriarchy, when in fact it is our modern idea of patriarchy that we are imposing on the past in order to make that argument in the first place.
Yeah.
yeah, we
It
chose
was just an
to wear these
undergarment,
corsets.
guys. Just chill out.
I just wanted to mention that they didn't really touch on the vocabulary that much. The corset wasn't called a corset in every like possible combination. Like in 1950s, you had like corselettes, and then you had girdles, and then you had merry widows or whatever the longer ones were called, and then you had the actual corsets that were usually used for like high fashion photo shoots, and they were actually like boned and laced and stuff, but no one would wear them for like, I think he kind of implied that because of Dior's new look, ladies were like, okay, let's jump right back into it, but it wasn't really like that, because not everyone that wore new look inspired fashion, like, or even like his designs, wore a corset underneath. Like, it was a personal choice. So again, like the vocabulary, and even with the later designs of like the 80s and 90s, like not every piece that reminds me of a corset when I see it is a corset. I'm not sure who decides what a corset is, because like sometimes you see a garment that's boned and you're like, nah. But
She does.
I guess she does.
Catherine does.
Yeah, but also
Yeah.
a lot of Dior's stuff, like they were already boned. Like the actual garments were boned, so you didn't need to wear anything underneath. So I kind of wish they touched on that too.
I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but I think the lack of acknowledgement of corsetry built into couture garments throughout modern fashion is, it's very obvious that they didn't want to touch it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like they only call it a corset when they want to call it a corset, and that's kind of the problem, is they want to call it a corset when it's either something controversial, one way or the other, but the moment you just put some vertical bones into that garment to keep it from wrinkling up on itself, we're not going to call that anything. It's just support.
That's just a
It's
dress.
just-
And they knew just the man for the job. Mr. Pearl, the king of corsetry. Spanx and Skims have replaced the need for corsetry's painful practices and favour
How many of you have worn Spanx?
I have not.
That's why I flipped off the camera.
How many of you have worn corsets? Which is more comfortable?
I can pee in a corset.
Yeah, I purchased Spanx for my wedding and did not wear them, and instead built a corset into my dress. I literally
all I hear about Spanx is people just moaning about how torturous they are.
So I've worn all three,
Unanimously.
and at different like weights, right? And with Spanx, they have a hole for body fluids because they don't expect you to take it off when you go to the bathroom because you're literally like, it's like that scene in Ace Ventura Pet Detective 2 where he's like birthing out of the back of like the spy rhino. I don't know if I'm like particularly
That's
like,
very niche.
that's a very niche reference, but it's just like, meh. Like you just cannot, like, you know, you're in there and you're just like, it's just this process of getting it down because you can't get it back up like easily under your clothes. It's constantly rolling down. You're constantly pulling it back up because you get like saggy pantyhose crotch. You have this hole in the pantyhose thing that you're supposed to pee out of, but it's like this big. And so you're like, am I just gonna piss myself? Like, what is happening here? Like, and so you're going to the toilet and you're like, I don't know what to do. And you're usually like, and if it's a super formal situation, like a wedding gown or something, you have an unfortunate bridesmaid who's on piss duty. And like, cause they're holding the skirt up, you're trying to figure out how to go to the bathroom. You can't, you without fail end up peeing on yourself. You think you smell like pee the entire time. It's really uncomfy. You can't eat and all you wanna do is take it off. Oh, and if it's the ones that go down to your knee and you don't have any garters holding them up, it just starts to roll up. So not only is it rolling down here, it's rolling up on the thighs. It's hot, it's sweaty. You can't go to the bathroom.
Where are all the killer Spanx scenes in movies? Where are they?
So what I'm hearing is basically they tried to bring back crotchless drawers to go under your corset, but they completely failed miserably because they ignored the strategy that already worked.
They ignored anatomy.
They ignored the fact that women will sometimes move.
But
Anyways.
something else about the video that just like annoyed me was when they were talking about the Spanx and they were like, oh, thank God we have something that fits like all women now. And it's like, can't you just get a corset made for like virtually any size?
It's so easy to find women of so many different sizes.
Yeah, it's
in-
kind of
in the
assuming
Victorian
that they
era
didn't
wearing
exist back
corsetry.
then.
Like, it's not hard.
Or like even if they did
But also
exist, they
it's
were
like
just like,
the-
oh, what am I gonna do? Nothing
Yeah.
fits me. Like, no, that's something that happens nowadays. We're just like imposing it on the past because we forget that like
Yeah.
all clothing was adjusted to the person that was wearing it. Whereas nowadays we just get things off the rack and we're like, oh, I'm too fat for this. Oh, I can't fit.
What's like also funny is the body positivity slant they try to put on it. It's like now women of all sizes can hide their fat versus like
Yay! We progress.
Cool. Thanks everybody. Mina, it was really nice to talk to you. Face
Yeah,
to face.
it's nice
you in
talking to you
person.
all.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Okay.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy
Oh, yeah,
Thanksgiving.
that's fine.
Bye.
Oops.